In District 2, which is generally that part of the city south of I-90 and the river, there are 2 candidates. Voters registered in this district will choose between John Ahern and John Snyder. After several attempts to accommodate a schedule, Mr. Ahern is unable to attend, and we will hear from John Snyder. We begin with Mr. Snyder's opening statement of 1.5 minutes. In addition to general remarks, we ask the candidates to answer this question: why are you running, and why, if elected, are you the best person for the office? Mr. Snyder.
Well, thank you, and I want to apologize to the viewers at home that I'm the only candidate here tonight. I'm going to do my best to try to make this as interesting as possible. My family moved to Spokane in 1974. One of my first memories was seeing Two Fly and Man Belongs to the Earth on the giant IMAX screen down at Expo 74. I went on to go to kindergarten at Jefferson Elementary and then Sacagawea, and then I graduated from Lewis and Clark High School. My name is Councilman John Snyder, and I'm a father, a husband, small business owner, and I love living in Spokane because it's a great city that can be greater still. We must not be satisfied with our efforts in this town while so many people are still suffering in a down economy. I believe that government should be public action for the public good. I spent 4 years on the city council with that as my guiding principle, and now I'm running for re-election. I want to work for another 4 years to make improvements in public safety, our street system, our great neighborhoods, and to support our local businesses. I appreciate the League offering this forum for the citizens to be educated about what goes on in their city government, and I thank them for having me here tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, and we will move on to our questions for the evening. How would you work with the county even more to bridge differing interests on issues and projects? And we'll have 1 minute answers here.
Okay, well, we need to increase communication. That's one thing. A lot of times the county does stuff and doesn't inform the city of what it's doing, and sometimes the same thing happens on the city's behalf. When I first came on council, we had our first ever joint city-county meeting, and that had to do with the annexation of the West Plains. That was one of the first annexations in the state of Washington to happen without litigation. I think that's a good example of increasing communication to come up with good mutual outcomes. But recently, we've started to take that up to another level. The discussion has been, how do we create cost sharing and revenue sharing in our unincorporated areas so that we can stop what I think is kind of a vicious cycle of annexation, where the county overdevelops on our borders, we're forced to annex, they lose revenue, we gain liabilities. It's not the best way to go about it. We need to do more joint planning, and that just requires more communication. I think our discussions about talking about revenue sharing are a good start, and I think we need to do more.
Okay. 6 new departments within the city police department have been formed, also giving more control to the police chief and mayor to hire and fire top administrators. Some of these hires are exempt from civil service. How did you feel about this, and do you support it or not? Why not?
I did support it, and the reason I supported it was because we have a new police chief. We have a police department that has had some serious troubles in the last few years, and we needed some new solutions on how to work that department. So I wanted to give the police chief as much leeway as possible in doing what he thinks needs to be done to make our department the best possible police department for the city of Spokane. But the civil service changes really concerned me, and when they came forward for the fire department and when they're coming forward for the park department, I have not supported them, because my concern is every time you make a new department, you're creating 2 new non-civil service positions. You could erode civil service, which could lead to nepotism in our city, but also you're creating these additional middle management positions at the city, and I don't think we need those right now.
Okay, so my next question was going to deal more with the park department. So
Okay.
Is there more you would like to say, because that's out in front of us? What else would you say about that one?
Well, the park department is looking at bringing forward new departments as well. And by charter, every time you create a new department, you have 2 new exempt positions. They say they don't want to hire for those positions right now. But that still concerns me because they could be hired for in the future. I think one of the reasons I couldn't support the mayor's budget last year is we saw an increase in compensation and salaries for upper-level management and middle management, and I didn't think that was the appropriate thing to do while we were cutting services and cutting positions in police and fire other places in the budget. So my concern is the same. I don't want to see us just have more middle management positions that may not be necessary proliferate at the city.
So, I mean, it's all about the budget here, right? And the library, of course, has taken budget cuts over the years. But last February, citizens passed a 4-year levy to help keep the libraries open more hours. But there's also talk of doing more. Would you support forming a library district? Why or why not?
I think a library district has to be looked at very closely. I love our libraries. I live very close to the downtown library. Some of my favorite times in Spokane are walking up the hill with my kids to go to the library, looking out on the 3rd floor and seeing that view of the river. I helped lead the effort to pass the library levy. I worked on the call center and I worked on the campaign because I believe it's so important. But a lot of people don't realize there's a 4-year sunset on that library levy. So we've got to come up with another solution to prevent hour cutbacks and branch closures very soon. And there's a couple things that we could do. We could look at a municipal library district, which would allow a separate taxing district within the city's boundaries for the library, make it its own kind of separate government, kind of like STA or the health district. Or we could look at combining operations with the county. Or we could look for a different solution. But the clock is ticking. We only have 4 years to figure out what's the best way forward.
Okay. Do you support the city of Spokane continuing to take a leadership role in criminal justice reform, or would you prefer that the city follow Spokane County's lead? Why? Why not?
I think right now the city and county are working together on that. The problem is that it's really not a good idea for either one of us to go alone. You kind of have to have co-leadership on that. The city of Spokane obviously represents the biggest population of people who are served by our criminal justice system, but most of the responsibility for that comes from the county and their county court system. Right now, we've got a criminal justice commission that came out of a failed discussion around building a $250 million new jail. In October, we will be seeing some of the first recommendations of that commission. I expect there'll be things that the city and the county will want to take advantage there. And I hope to push the discussion on that in the city end because I think there's some things we can really do to create smart justice in our town.
So here's your opportunity for the crystal ball, your prediction regarding the city's budget for 2014. Is it reasonable to predict a deficit of expenses over revenue, and if so, how much? And how would you balance the budget? I'll give you a minute and a half for this.
Well, you know, here I've been in the office 4 years now, and I have yet to see a year where we haven't had a budget to balance and a deficit to deal with. So I don't even know what I do once we have a surplus budget. This year, we're definitely going to have another budget deficit. We are supposed to get an update next week on what we think that will be. It will probably be in the range of a few $1 million. It will be less than some of the budgets I've seen in the last couple years. We are starting to turn the corner a little bit on sales tax and property values, and that's being helpful. But we still need to trim our expenses, and unfortunately, that also means trimming services. What happened last year, though, is that we did not take some optional revenue increases that are available to us. This year, the mayor has reversed course on that and is suggesting we do take them to increase public safety, including hiring more police officers and more firefighters, and I strongly support that.
Okay. So one thing that winds up costing more is getting more creative about some of the services that are out there. So do you support spending more resources on therapeutic problem-solving courts for misdemeanor crimes or more jail beds? How's that going to fit within budget?
So at the end of the budget cycle last year, myself and Councilmember Al Waldrop and Council President Stuckert brought forward one cost-saving measure that I think would address this. We wanted to do more electronic home monitoring in the right situations to reduce the amount we're paying for jail time. And I think therapeutic courts, veterans court, mental health court, specialized drug courts, we've seen here in the county that they can create some really lasting positive impacts. And as long as they're doing that, it's something we really need to look at. I think one of the things we're looking at in this whole criminal justice discussion is, are we doing the right thing to get the best results? Sometimes we're sending people to treatment that maybe should be in jail, and sometimes we're sending people to jail who maybe should be in some sort of treatment. Can we do a better job of assessing folks that are in the criminal justice system so it's not just a better outcome for them, but it's a better outcome for our whole community?
Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to your closing statement. You have 30 seconds.
So I like to think, what is the best measure of a great city? What's the canary in the coal mine we should all be paying attention to? Well, I think it can be measured with 2 feet, and that is walking. A city that people love to walk in is a city they love to live in. If people are walking, they feel safe. Their public safety is not their concern. If they're walking, they may have good sidewalks and good pedestrian infrastructure. And finally, if they're walking, they're going to somewhere. They're walking to a vibrant commercial district or great activities. And if the city of Spokane can do that right, that means we're doing a lot of things right. And that's why it'll be one of my big priorities if I should be reelected to another 4 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Snyder. Thank you, and the candidates for City of Spokane Council Member District Number 2, Position 2, are John Ahern and John Snyder. Thank you.